Hey everyone, in today's video I would like to share with you 5 really easy garden crops that anybody can grow. You're watching Together We Harvest, a no-nonsense backyard homesteading channel. Let's first discuss what makes a garden crop easy to grow to begin with. It's not just that they grow really big, lush and green like the ones you see right here. It's also that they're low maintenance, they seed really well, which means you can grow them from seed indoors if you want to. They're low maintenance as far as disease. You get a big harvest at the end of the year. They're overall just really good crops. Crop number 1 is winter squash. To my left and to my right, you're looking at 2 raised beds. They're 4 feet wide and 18 feet long this way. They're made out of cedar fence pickets, so they're very inexpensive, but they also last a long time, which is perfect because I've designated these beds right here to my butternut squash plants. One of my favorite things about winter squash is that they vine and trellis so well. Now they don't naturally trellis very well. They have these tendrils here like this that are basically useless. However, if you just have a cheap little roll of jute twine, you can trellis them up pretty much anything. That could be a fence, it could be a ladder, it could be a tree, it could be a fence post, pretty much anything. In these garden beds right here, we actually use teepee trellises, which I've made several videos on my channel about in the past, that we just find tree limbs in our property, put them together, and allow these squash to grow up them. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you've got space on the ground or if you have in-ground beds, you can just let them go where they want to. You'll actually get more root contact because throughout the vine on the squash, it's going to make contact every so many feet in the ground, put down some roots, and actually get more nutrients that way. The way I do it, it just helps with disease, it helps identifying pests, and it helps with pruning. It also helps with harvesting and kind of seeing where your fruit is to begin with. I also like the fact that it gets good air circulation. It allows for undergrowth, so if you want to plant things like carrots or celery underneath them, you can do that. So a winter squash is absolutely in my top 5 for garden crops. And the best winter squash, in my opinion and my experience of eating these for years, is called a Waltham butternut squash. I'll put a link to the seeds that I get every year down in the description below. When it's time to harvest these butternut squash, either in the middle or toward the end of September, that's one of my favorite things to do as far as harvesting in the garden. And the reason is because we simply snip them off just like you would cut a pumpkin or something, bring them inside into our basement, and leave them alone until it's ready to eat. Many people don't know that winter squash last up to a year. It's very easy. They last longer than potatoes, they last longer than onions and garlic. They're incredible crops because of their longevity in storage. And in case you didn't know, winter squash are called winter squash because they last throughout the winter. If you would like to grow summer squash, go for it. But just realize that they're not going to last nearly as long as winter squash. They might last 3 weeks to a month after you harvest them. The second crop that's super easy to grow are pole beans. Now, green beans come in a bush style or a pole bean style, as you can see here. Pole beans are far more superior, in my opinion, in terms of harvest, in terms of maintenance. We basically just plant them here, they grow up this little fence, and we don't really touch them for the entire year until it's time to harvest. The one downside to beans is that sometimes the deer tend to like them. This is the first year we've grown beans where the deer have actually had an impact, and it's very obvious. Over here, the deer didn't eat any of the green beans when they were about 6 inches tall, but over here they did. And you can obviously see that on our arch trellis right here. It's just a matter of one time and one night and one deer, and all of your beans can be gone. So if you have deer pressure in your area, you need to be careful and aware of that and maybe fence off your beans if necessary. We also have green beans growing up on this fence as well. I can actually see a couple growing right here. These pole beans are going to trellis all on their own. There's no jute twine, there's no tying them up at all. As long as they're close to something they can climb, they'll find it and they'll go straight up. Pole beans like this are so good that some people don't even grow them for that reason. That sounds crazy, but sometimes you get too much and you don't know what to do with it. Last summer we were gone for 2 or 3 weeks on vacation and we came back to tons and tons of green beans. But if you stay on top of it and you come out every other day or every third day, you can stay on top of your harvest. You can freeze some, You can can some, or you can just eat them fresh, depending on how many you have. And green beans are a crop that if you pick some, you're gonna get some. So if I come out here and pick a few, you can bet that in a couple days you're gonna have to pick more, because by picking your green beans, it actually encourages the plant to flower and to produce more green beans rather than just die off, kind of fade away for the rest of the year. If you'd like to know a specific variety of green beans that you can grow to have a ton of green beans at the end of the year, go with rattlesnake green beans. It's an heirloom green bean where you can save the seeds and replant next year. I haven't purchased green bean seeds in a really long time because we just keep replanting from the previous year. So they're very sustainable, they're very affordable, and you get a ton of green beans with just a little seed packet. The third crop that's extremely easy to plant, grow, and harvest are potatoes. Last year we decided to grow all of our potatoes in these grow bags. It makes processing a lot easier at the end when we have to harvest them. And you can see here that these potatoes are about ready to harvest, maybe in a week or two. Once the plants die down, that's how you know the tubers are fully developed, or at least developed as much as they can underneath the soil. And the reason why we like these grow bags is because we can just dump the whole thing out on a tarp or in a wheelbarrow, sort through the spuds, put the dirt back in the grow bags, and they're ready to go for next year. This growing season, we decided to put 2 grow bags right here, 2 more over here in between these 2 raised beds, and then a couple more over here. Grow bags are amazing because you can put them wherever you want, whether that's your deck, patio, or in your garden. You can move them around, they're mobile, and you can grow a ton of different things inside of them. The cool thing about potatoes is that, in my experience, the variety really doesn't matter as much as it does with other crops. There are a few crops where I will only purchase a specific type. For example, Roma tomatoes, I will only purchase Picus and Supremo because I know they're big and I know they're easy and I know they're good. But with potatoes, I'll get different varieties every year, and it seems like they always turn out really well. And once these are in my basement on some newspaper, as long as they're out of the light, they will last for months in a cold, dark area. The fourth crop that I believe is super easy to grow are zucchini plants. I believe this variety is called Black Beauty. I'll put that link as well in the description. But we've got 2 plants right here, a large one over here and a large one there, amongst other places in the garden. You can see where my walking path normally is, and it's fairly wide, but these have completely taken over and gone over the raised bed and actually taken up most of the walking path. If you don't like zucchini for what it is, just in stir fry or eaten fresh, what you can do and should at least try is making zucchini bread. And that's honestly the reason why we grow so many zucchini plants in our garden. In our garden, we try to grow 6 zucchini plants every single year because we know with 6 plants, we have enough zucchini to make enough bread to last us for an entire year. We have the 2 large zucchini plants right here. I did plant a zucchini right here amongst our winter squash, our butternut squash here. And you can see this one's doing really well. We've got a large one there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 just growing right here. Knowing that there are 8 zucchini growing right here, it can get overwhelming with these 2 because you just end up with too much at one time. Once I harvest like 3, a couple more are going to kind of take its place and grow. So you're going to end up with a lot at the end of the season. You can easily give these away, but if you want to keep them and use them later on, what you can do is peel them, shred them up into, like if you're shredding carrots, for example, put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them for later use. And as you see here, this one plant has given us 7 or 8 zucchini, and it's July here in Wisconsin. And I expect this to produce fruit all the way through September. At least it has historically in our garden before. So if we're getting 10 zucchini from this plant, we'll probably end up with more, but 10 from that plant and 10 from another plant, that means we could potentially have 60 zucchini by the end of the season. And I let my zucchini grow really big. I don't take off the small ones that you see in the grocery store. I let them become 18 inches or more before I pick them. That way you get more bang for your buck. So that's our 3rd zucchini right here. Our 2 large ones are right here. And then underneath each arch trellis, we grow 1. We have 1 over here, 1 over here, and 1 down there. The 5th and final crop I would like to talk about in this video that's super easy to grow for pretty much anybody are Roma tomatoes, but not just any kind. There's only 2 types of Roma tomatoes that I will get. One of them is called Picus, the other one is called Supremo. This is our Roma raised garden bed right here. And look at how well these plants are doing. In this one raised bed alone, we have 10 Roma tomato plants in large cages, not the little tiny ones you normally see, but big heavy duty cages. And these produce a ton of fruit every single year. So with these 10 plants, if we pan around to this raised bed, we have 4 more over here, 2 and 2, so we end up with 14 total. One of the reasons why these tomatoes in particular do so well, other than good soil and the fact that I make sure that I take care of them very well, is because they're determinate. With tomatoes, there's indeterminate and then there is determinate. Determinate tomatoes only get to a certain size and only have so much fruit in them. Determinate tomatoes are also normally a bush type of tomato rather than a stem type of tomato like indeterminate. Indeterminate varieties are usually heirloom varieties rather than hybrids. Hybrids are going to give you more fruit overall. They're going to be a bush variety, which is why I have them in tomato cages rather than trellising them up a single pole. If you have tomatoes that need to go up a single pole, that's because they're indeterminate and they're going to grow as long as the season allows them. Once these tomatoes get so big, they stop growing, they put out as much fruit as they can, and then you're done. In my experience, you get so much more fruit with hybrid determinate bush style tomatoes. And if you grow the Picus or Supremo varieties I'm talking about, you're going to end up with plants that are big, and big plants normally produce big fruit. You don't want the weak little tiny stems that fall over. You don't want that. You want big heavy stalks like these ones that are going to give you a lot of fruit. I'm not joking, but the tomatoes we're going to get from this in just a little while are going to be almost the size of pears. They get huge and each plant produces a ton of them. So much that when I bring them in the house and lay them all over the table, we literally run out of room after one simple harvest. Not to mention all of the other tomatoes that are going to keep on going as these flower and kind of finish off for the season. A question some people have is, why would you want that many Roma tomato plants? And that's easy. Roma tomatoes are great for making sauce or juice. If you like making your own ketchup, pasta sauce, tomato soup, anything like that, you want Roma tomatoes specifically for that, which is why I grow so many and so many of the right variety. My plan with these Roma tomatoes this year is simply just to make all of these into tomato juice, so I can just drink it straight out of a canning jar. I'm hoping to make a whole bunch of this fall, freeze it, and take it out as I need it throughout the winter months up till the next growing season. There are many crops and many experiences, and many people live in different climates. But my climate right here in Zone 4B in Wisconsin, I found that the 5 crops I discussed and explained in this video happen to be the easiest, which is why we grow them every single year. Not to mention, we really like to eat them as well. Please list your favorite crop or 5 down in the comments below that you like to grow, because they're just simply that easy. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you found this informative. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video.